Hi teachers! So in this training today, we're going to be talking a lot more about Google Classroom assignments. So we've probably done Google Classroom assignments before. I know many of you were using these obviously during our last 6 weeks of the school year, but there's a few things that you can do with Google Classroom assignments to add a little bit more spice to what you're doing. So you probably are used to either adding a PDF or some type of thing that students read or review, and then maybe making a copy for students of some type of template. And if you are interested in templates, there's a whole module, I believe it's called Get Interactive, in this PD that you can explore different ways to create templates. So I'm not going to spend time on templates, but I am going to spend time on other things you can do in these assignments that you create. And so we're solely talking this time about when you go to click create and you select assignment. So when you're in here, obviously you have the title and instructions. Just a few reminders on instructions. Instructions become more clear if you either use numbers, or sometimes I like to spice it up and I use one of my emoji extensions, and I will use arrows. And you may have noticed these arrows in a lot of the assignments that I put inside this PD. So when you add things, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that you can add pretty much anything you can find online. And so a lot of times people stick to adding things from their Google Drive and things from YouTube. But you can also add files and links. And I love the link aspect because I can send students right away to a specific web page. However, when you add those links, you want to really be thinking deeply about what should I link students to so there's the fewest amount of clicks and more directions I have to give to students once they're there. So for example, if you would like to use an article from a site, here's a site that I was actually looking for some virtual field trips, and I want to have them check out some of these virtual field trips, I would want to make sure that I send them to this exact page. Now, that might be very obvious if you're just grabbing a random link from the internet, but what if you are trying to send students to something in InfoHio or something in Clever? So a lot of times people will post directions way at the top of their Google Classwork page of like, hey, here's the link to Clever, or telling students to go back into Clever. But if you don't include the link to Clever right in your assignment, it's one more step for students to have to go through. So sometimes people don't realize this, but I can actually click here to add a link, and I can type in clever.com/in/NOCS. And if I add this link, it takes students directly to that page where they either log in with their Google account, or guess what? If you're already logged in with your Google account, it takes you right into your portal. So adding this when you want students to access a resource through Clever is one less step for students. Making sure, unfortunately right now, Google Classroom doesn't allow you to drag links up and down. One feature that I really wish they would fix, and if it's a feature you want to see, go down to the question mark, click to report issue or request feature. You don't need to include a screenshot if it's not an issue. Right in that feature, make sure you only put one feature in each item you send as feedback. So back to this, we're going to add something from InfoHio now. Okay, so when you're adding from InfoHio, my suggestion, I'm using the digital video collection, is to first go to the exact page you want to send students to. Okay, and this is, let's say, the exact page. Now it looks like they have a new feature in here where I can post this directly to Google Classroom as well. Now, one thing to make sure that you include whenever you're posting a link directly to something in InfoHio is in your directions, the default username and password for the district, which would be NOCS and then Eagles. So that way you can link directly to that resource, but if students aren't signed into InfoHio, it will prompt them to then sign in with this information and they can get directly there. So yes, you can still send them to the main InfoHio page, but we know the amount of clicks it might take to get to that part can be a little challenging. So the other thing that I like to keep in mind when I'm working with students is that I don't need to have students turn in a document all the time. They can turn in an assignment with no attachments, or there's some other things that you can allow students to add to their assignments. They can also add multiple different types of things to a final assignment. So I'm going to now switch to the student side of things because I want to show you all the things that students can add to an assignment. Okay, so from the student aspect of things, students can also add files from their Google Drive, links, uploads, and other things to each Google assignment. So if I'm in a Google assignment for a student, you'll notice that there are two different attachments here. One's a PDF, one is a YouTube video, and then over on the side I have a template from a teacher. But students can also click add or create, and then they have the option to either create any of these things brand new or add anything that's in their Google Drive. So it doesn't even have to be a Google document to add it from their Google Drive. So if they were to click Google Drive and go into their drive, and let's say in my drive, oh boy, I've got all types of plant stuff there. I want to add a video. I've got a video. I can add that video to an assignment. So this is a great feature, especially if students, older students, are working on a phone or students have recorded themselves. This can also be great using with younger students because we know sometimes making a video would be more developmentally appropriate than having them try to type out a document. So if they're able to use tools on a Chromebook in order to record themselves, they can add that video in this way. They can also add a link. So every once in a while, I would give assignments to students where they had to do something on a totally different site. And we know a lot of projects on sites have links associated with those projects. So for example, Scratch. Scratch is a programming site that you can use with students. So if I were to go to Scratch, Scratch MIT, and I were to then create a project, and let's say this was my final project that I published, I could copy this link and I can take and add this link to my assignment as well. And now I don't have to download anything. I can turn this in as my work. And so a teacher would simply click on that link and it would take them directly to the project that I created. So anytime you're working in sites that have projects that students create, if there's a link associated with that project in the end, students can also turn in that link. Additionally, students can add files. So if they have pictures on their computer or videos on their computer, they can upload those things. The one thing to keep in mind is when you have students upload things, you want to make sure that it is a file you could potentially open. I had a couple students that used to upload Mac things all the time, and I didn't have a Mac, and it was a little bit more of a workaround for me to be able to view that. But in the most cases, that's not an issue. The thing I love is students can attach multiple things to that one assignment. So now I have multiple attachments here, multiple things getting turned in. They can even on the spot create another document. One feature that I love of Google Docs is the fact that they could add a Google Doc, or better yet, you can create a template. And this is so developmentally appropriate for little ones, especially, because then they just go up to insert. And if they're not able to create some type of type document, they can go down to camera, and there is a built-in camera. So I'm going to allow. It's probably going to be a big yellow square because I have my camera turned off. now it's a picture of the wall, but you get the point. I can take a picture and I hit insert, and then my picture goes right in the document. So this is great to use with littles because they can draw something out, hold it up, take a picture. They don't have to have a phone or anything special. They don't need a special camera app. And it's even better if you make this into a template and have boxes where they're putting their pictures, that they can easily insert those pictures right into the document. This is also great with art students, with students at the high school level. Maybe they're doing some type of math and they find that it's just way easier to work out their math by handwriting it. They can take a picture of it, drop it in the doc, and the camera's all there and easy to use. So the one thing I want you to keep in mind when you're creating assignments is the sky's the limit. You do not have to stick to Google tools. You do not have to stay within that Google suite. You can go beyond that. Or you can even use some of the Google tools that are mentioned in some of these other modules that aren't specifically primary tools. So for example, there is a tool called Google My Maps. Or you can have students create a form. You could have students add using some type of extension or add-on. So, or maybe even you have students create a Jamboard. So if I were to have students create a form, what they would turn in to me is the link in order to complete their form. Or if I have students create a Jamboard, which a Jamboard is like an interactive whiteboard. It's really basic, but it's still helpful for students. So if they were to create a Jamboard, there's the share button up here. So let's say I've gotten some writing. We're just going to make a mess on it. And then I want to click share. Again, here's that link. So they can click to copy that link, go up here, add a link, paste that link in, and add that link. So then I would be able to check in on their Jamboard and see how things are going. So be sure to think outside the box when you're creating assignments. Look for other ways for students to turn things in, and always, always test your assignments out first. That is why we have those student test accounts for each building, so that you can add your class and then go in as a student and play around with what it really looks like to attach different things to an assignment.